Welcome to the world of Dracaenas. There are literally thousands and thousands of different varieties of this type of plant. By the end of this video, we're going to talk you through the main varieties you can look out for, how they're arranged differently to make sure you find the one that you like the most, what to do when you bring it home to make sure it is set up for success, and then how to take care of it to make sure that your Dracaena has years and years of happy life with you and your family or friends at home. The first thing you notice when you look at all these Dracaena around me is that they all have different types of leaves. And that's the first place my eyes go to when I look at the different types of Dracaenas I can buy. You have some types of Dracaenas, such as this one, that will have lots of thinner, longer leaves, such as this guy. You'll notice this particular Dracaena has green leaves with red borders on either side of it. It's a cool Dracaena. You have other Dracaenas, such as this Dracaena, that has thicker, plainer green leaves, such as this one. You have other Dracaenas which are similar to this one, except they are variegated, which means they have different colors in them. This, for example, will have some lighter green stripes within the darker green leaf itself. Then you have, I think, my favorite variety right now, which is this kind of Dracaena, also variegated, such as this one, although except with yellow streaks in the middle, you will have white streaks such as this. So that's difference number one. So look at the different leaves around you and think through which one stands out, speaks to you the most. Go for that one. Then when you decide to go for that one, the next thing you want to look at are the actual stems of the plant themselves. The first place you want to look for are the cuttings of the stem here, where all of these sub-shoots are coming out of. Effectively, the way these plants are grown back to the growers is they come from the country of origin, Costa Rica. For most of these plants, they come in barks this long. Those barks are then put into pots of soil such as this and given time to grow. When they are done so correctly and when they're done in the perfect conditions, different numbers of stems will shoot out from the top. When you see 3, that's a good sign. If you see less than 3, such as 2 or 1, it's probably not a good sign. It probably means there was something either wrong with this plant or it wasn't brought up in the best environment. So when you see 3 or more at the tip of each of the stems, that's a very, very good sign. The next thing you want to look out for are the number of stems in the pot themselves. When you have a plant such as this one in this sort of a size, about 80 centimeters, it's likely that you'll see 2 stems such as this and likely put in at different heights. The reason it's done that way is to give more of a fuller look throughout the entire plant. So 80 centimeters, below a meter, you would typically see 2 stems such as this one. You can then go a little bit bigger toward the 1 to 1.5 meter range, such as this guy here, and you will start seeing 3 stems. Also at different heights to make the entire plant look pretty full. 80 centimeters, you're looking at about 2 stems. 1 to 1.5 meters, you're looking at about 3 stems. You can then go really, really next level and get, here we go. 2 meter plant like this one that has 4 massive, amazing, awesome stems in there. When people reach out to us and ask us, hey, I'm new to plant parenthood, I want a big statement plant in my living room, haven't had plants before, I haven't had much success with plants before, this is where we lead them to. It is a very, very easy plant to care for, which we'll get to in a little bit, but right now I just want you to focus on the number of different stems you can have and the different looks that can give you and what you think works best for you. Now, that covers Dracaenas that have different stems plotted in individually, but then you can also have some, such as this guy, that will have lots of different stems. As you can see here, lots of different stems all bunched up together. This one, for example, will have, I believe, somewhere between 8 to 10 stems. And you can see this is an entirely different look to any of these other different Dracaenas. Looks a lot fuller. Now, obviously, because there are more stems in a pot like this versus some of the other ones I showed you, you'll be paying more for the number of stems in that particular pot. Finally, before we move on, I want to show you the last of the Dracaena different stem types, and that is this guy. Now, if you look closely at the trunk of this particular plant, you will notice it is very, very, very thick. Now, all Dracaenas over time will get fatter. The more they're cut, such as the ones you see here, the fatter and fatter they'll get because more water would have to transport up the trunk to get to the multiple shoots that have emerged from where it was previously cut, if that makes sense. So when you get a plant like this, you'll be paying for all the time it takes for the plant to get from a thickness such as the previous ones to a thickness of this one. They're all different styles, all different vibes. Find the one that works for you and go with that. First thing you want to get right is the actual placement. Now, Dracaenas in general are one of the most low light tolerant plants you can find, not low light loving, don't listen to anybody that says it's a low light loving plant, but it's a very low light tolerant plant. However, that doesn't mean you want to bring it home and put it in a dark room straight away. What you want to do is allow it some time to acclimate to the light levels in your home. And what that means is, if you have a window, take your Dracaena and place it close to your window. No matter how bright your home is, it's gonna have less light than it had in the nursery where it grew up. So you don't want to shock it too badly by taking it somewhere dark. Once you've placed it by that bright window and you've given it time to acclimate, let's say about a month, you can then take it and put it closer into your room, into a spot you want it to have. Now, one thing I want you to look out for are the leaves when you bring it home. You start seeing these stems go yellow, you'll be able to pull them off very easily. It's not getting enough light, it's shedding leaves as a result. Bring it closer to the window to stop that happening. The only thing you need to get right is the watering of your plant. Now, we have a whole different video on how to water your plant, where we talk about the 3 different strategies for watering your plant. I strongly recommend you go check out that video. This plant falls into the category of plants that like their soil to dry out entirely. Again, watch that video which talks you through how to water plants correctly, but if you follow those steps, your plant will be happy for years to come. Now, like with all plants, there's always the risk of underwatering or overwatering your plants. And how you know if you're doing that is by taking a close look at the leaves and looking for some yellowing and for some browning. If you see yellowing or browning, then this probably means that you're underwatering it or overwatering it. And to help you understand whether your Dracaena is being overwatered or underwatered, we're going to play a little game. So what I have here are some leaves from some Dracaenas that have either been overwatered or underwatered. And we're going to play a game where we'll look at each of the leaves and try to guess whether it has been underwatered or overwatered using our intuition. So the first leaf is this particular Dracaena. So this leaf came from a plant that is very similar to this one. And if you look closely at this leaf, you notice that the top half is brown, the bottom half is green. Now the top half, you can hear is crunchy. There's like no life left in there. It's very, very dry. What do you think happened to this plant? Was it being overwatered or underwatered? 3, 2, 1. Correct, it has been underwatered. That is why it is entirely dry. So if your Dracaena's leaf looks like this, please, please, please take it to the shower, rinse it entirely. It is thirsty, give it some water. Please don't let this happen to your plant. Now, what do you think happened to this leaf? Very, very similar to this leaf. In fact, these came from the same tree, but what you can see is that it is entirely brown. Overwatered or underwatered? Exactly, same plant, underwatered. What has happened was the leaf started green once upon a time, started going brown, and then over time, just went from this to this. So if you see something like this in your plant, please, please give it some water. Leaf from plant number 2. So this leaf came from a plant that was very similar to this guy here. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that it's yellow, very translucent, and pretty soft. What do you think happened to this leaf? Was it overwatered or underwatered? 3, 2, 1. Correct, it was overwatered. That's what that mushy softness is. It's excess water in the cells of the leaf, which has eventually burst and caused this to happen. If your plant's leaf looks like this, you're giving it way too much water. Put it closer to the window to allow the soil to dry out and wait at least a month before rewatering it. You don't want this to happen. Clear? Good. Now, next leaf from another plant similar to this one, but a different one. Also yellow, but unlike this leaf, which was soft, like you can see if I do this, how soft it is, whereas this one is kind of a stick, right? Soft, hard. What do you think happened to this leaf? Exactly, this was underwatered. Very, very dried out, almost exactly the same as this Dracaena right here, right? So hopefully now you can see the difference between the two, and you can probably tell the difference between underwatered or overwatered. But before we move on, I want to show you this last leaf. Now, this leaf looks very healthy and green, right? But if you look closely, you will notice that the tip of the leaf is dry and brown. What do you think is happening here? It is being underwatered, and it is now in the early stages of showing it, right? If you remember the previous plant, it went from this to this. Before this, you could imagine that it was only the tip that was brown, and that is what we're seeing in the leaf of this particular plant. It is starting to show signs of massive underwatering. So what I want you to look out for when you bring your plant home are look for the tips when you're caring for them. If you start to see browning on the tips of your leaves, it means you are underwatering your plant. You need to start paying a little bit closer attention and start increasing your watering frequency. Now, if your plant leaf does look like this is not going to recover. What you can do is just cut off the tip of that leaf and then start watering your plant correctly to make sure it does not get worse. I hope that is helpful to help you understand the difference between overwatering and underwatering your Dracaena. The last important thing to note when it comes to your Dracaena is that over time, like all plants, dust will accumulate on your leaves. So once a month, what I want you to do is take a damp cloth, go to your Dracaena, and then wipe off any sort of dust that has accumulated on the Dracaena, and it will be happy. Now, granted, if you have this Dracaena, it'll be pretty obnoxious to dry off all of the leaves individually, and you might miss a few. So what I do with my plant that's like this one is once a month, I take it to the shower and I rinse all of the leaves. And as I'm rinsing the leaves, it's cleaning off all the dust from the leaves and at the same time, watering the entire soil structure of my plant. So that's all you need to know when it comes to picking your Dracaena, placing it at home and caring for it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, give us a shout out and we'll do our best to help you. Have a great day.